Hello, today we're making a rosary bracelet. Um, I'm making one that's a world mission rosary. Obviously, you don't have to do that, um, but that's what the colors are here. What you're going to need is a cross or crucifix, a Marian medal, or I suppose you could use a different saint medal if you wanted to. You will need pliers and wire cutters. This is actually a combined one that's used for making wire rosary. So this is a nice like rounded. I don't know if there's a special name for this. I should probably look that up and see. But these are specifically made for making rosaries. But if you have pliers and then these have wire cutters in them, or you might need to have separate wire cutters just depending on what you have handy. You will need memory wire, 6 Our Father beads. You will need 53 Hail Mary beads in this case. I have the different colors for the World Mission Rosary. I can put a link to the World Mission Rosary up as well. So I have green, yellow, clear, which I'm using for white, red, and blue beads. You're going to need 61 spacers. This may or may not actually be 61. I just got a bunch of these. They're really tiny. Your bead size can vary. So the beads I'm using are pretty small. So I won't need as much memory wire for this. If you were using larger beads, obviously you would need more of the memory wire to do that. So you just have to kind of see the size of your beads, the amount of the wire that you're going to want to use. I also wanted to mention, so for this one I used a crucifix. For the one that I'm about to make now, I'm using a cross, and I kind of wanted to take this opportunity to talk about something. So when I see a cross, it makes me think of Poustinia. So Poustinia is, I mean, it's basically like a retreat you can go on, but there actually used to be Poustinniki in Russia, that this was like, you know, they would go off and I guess essentially be hermits, but there was a distinct spirituality to it. You can, you know, go for shorter Poustinias. I'm familiar with going on a 24-hour Poustinia. Very simple, very inexpensive retreat. You can do it at home. But anyway, the cross, the Poustinniki, in their Poustinia, and I'm actually going to read this to you from here. Prominent in the Poustinia is a cross without a corpus, about 6 feet by 3 feet, obviously this is much smaller, which is nailed to the wall, and an icon of Our Lady in the eastern corner with a vigil light in front of it. The cross without a corpus is a symbol of one's own crucifixion on it, for those of us who love Christ passionately, want to be crucified with him so as to know the joy of his resurrection. So Poustinia, just a little room or closet or, you know, whatever little space that you go in. You fast, bread and water. She has like tea in hers, but she goes on longer Poustinias if you're going for, you know, a short time. You know, water should be good. Very, very bare bones. You know, you have the Bible with you. You can have an image of Our Lady, like they said in the book here, and a cross, because you're offering up, you know, you're wanting to take up your cross and follow Jesus. You can learn more about that if you're interested, but we're going to make a rosary. So you take your cross or crucifix. This is the very first part, and you're going to put it onto your memory wire. The beginning and end of this is the hardest part, because you have to bend the wire to put on your cross or crucifix and to put on your medal at the end. Besides that, you're just stringing beads on, and so once you get the first and the last part done, it's not too bad. So you're going to take your pliers and you're going to bend that wire around to make a loop for your cross or crucifix. So you can actually get that started before you put it on. And I'm sure this gets easier with practice. I have not done enough practice to have this super easy yet, but you bend it and you pop on your cross or crucifix, and then you just want it to be closed in this section here. There we go. Okay, so that's on there, and you could bend it better later, you know, to lay nicer when you get it on. So the beads you're going to string on first, you'll string on a spacer bead. So one of your little beads, and it makes it look nice, but it also makes it easier if you're going to pray the rosary on the bracelet. I mean, you could just wear it and pray a different rosary if you prefer, but the spacers, if you're going to pray it on the bracelet, just make it easier to distinguish the beads when you're going from one bead to another. So you basically put that down your slinky, and then you're going to put your first Our Father bead. You'll put a little spacer between every bead, and then you're going to do your 3 Hail Marys, just like you would at the beginning of the rosary. These I use like a little pale pink kind of bead to distinguish it from the other one, since I'm doing the World Mission rosary. So you do big bead, little bead, big bead, all the way down there. We'll continue that on through. So after you have those 3, put another spacer, put your next Our Father, and then you're going to get into stringing all of your rosary beads. So as you can see on this one, started with the crucifix, spacer, Our Father, 3 Hail Marys, spacer between each bead, Our Father, and then each of your decades all the way down until you get to the end. So you'll have your last Our Father, you have one more spacer, and then you're going to bend the wire on to the Mary Metal the same way that you did the first one. The only difference is that you have to cut the wire first. So I'm actually gonna pause now. I'll get this up to where it should be, and then I will bring it back to show you that part. Alright, so I'm back. I have my beads all strung on here, and have them moved down the wire. You'll want to make sure you hold these kind of tight. I mean, like you want to make sure they're all pressed down. You don't have like excess space when you're ready to cut this off. You're only going to want a little bit, maybe like about 1 centimeter or so, probably less than that actually, somewhere in that ballpark. You just want enough to be able to bend this wire down to make a loop, and it's not gonna take a lot. So I'm gonna cut it with my wire cutters. This is also, I guess, a bit tricky in that you want to make sure you don't lose your beads in this process either. So if you hold them down while you're cutting it, to make sure you don't lose anybody. Yeah, just, oops, snip that right there. And then I want to bend my loop back. This is where I'm going to put the metal. So I bent it first, and then I'm putting the metal on. In this case, I have Marianne Door of Knots. You can use any metal you choose. This one's also handy because it already has one of those little extra metal clasps on it. That just makes it a little easier to go on here. But I mean, you could put it on without that. And then the tricky part of closing that loop up the rest of the way and making sure that it's really all the way closed so that you don't have your beads or your metal popping off the end there. So there we go, that's pretty well, yeah, closed there. So there's that, and then you know, if it looks like it's sticking out funny, you can always bend it a bit to get it in a different, slightly different direction if you want to. One thing just to be careful not to bend it too much because then it'll break. The wire can only take so much bending and unbending. Also, if you're not familiar with using the memory wire, it's not like a bangle bracelet. This will, you know, it'll go onto your wrist. It looks tiny, but you know, you bend it open and it'll go on and it'll be fine. You know, it's easy to stretch it, get it on, and I have to put my little metal back on there. But that's basically it. So so yeah, that's how to make a wire rosary bracelet with memory wire. And if you're interested in learning more about Poustinias, I'll see if there's a good link I can share. This is a pretty old edition of the book, Poustinia by Catherine de Hueck Doherty. If you're interested in checking it out, I would really recommend it. One on a Poustinia, a priest in my diocese had offered years ago, and I still go on Poustinias. Now it's really a good experience if you're interested in checking that out. So you can do that too.